Look at us. Hal, you're kind of like you're like in halfway in, halfway out. Come a little bit into the center. There we go. And I'm gonna back up, otherwise I look like I have a giant head. There. Better?
Do have a giant head. I'm glad we waited till
Do
we were
you?
live for me. Yeah. Just big dome, lots of brains.
So many brains.
So many brains.
Hi everybody. Welcome to another week of trying to keep up. Where we are definitely trying to keep up. This week, I feel like it was quiet in some ways, right, from FDA, and then there were also a lot of things that kind of slipped by. That then when I started doing research, like yesterday, I was going through, all the things from FDA, and I was like, oh, there's a lot. So, Hal is our guest this week, Hal Stowe, and we'd love you to do a quick intro and tell us your joke.
Oh gosh, I have so many to pick from. Hi, Hal Stowe. I've known you two for a while, all through the wonderful Craig Hobson and through Dave McGurl. But yeah, thanks for having me. By background, I was in GR, then went to new product development, so I'm mostly front-end regulatory policy strategy, new product development, commercial, pre-market submissions, consulting, sort of internal work as well. Went to Eurofins about 7 months ago to help build their consulting firm with the great Craig. And yeah, so thanks for having me.
Awesome.
And I didn't realize this is like divine, but like I have like my Eurofins pen that was sitting here next to me today that I was using for my notebook.
It is divine intervention.
Yeah.
It's one of the better pens. I also have a Nilo pen.
Not so good.
Not so good.
Yeah. Mine have died. I actually use one of my clients' pens from Corian. They sent out great swag, and the pen is great. So
I love good swag. I feel like that's what maybe we need some TTKU swag. All right, Hal, you're up though. What's your joke?
Okay, so I have two. I'll start with number two. Okay. What do you call a small, scruffy dog that can't breathe?
Jokes. I don't know. What is it?
Come on. Small, scruffy dog that can't breathe.
you wrote the answer in the sheet, so I already know.
A Maltese.
Did he?
What was
You gotta
it?
tell people don't put because you already knew the answer. What is it? A Maltese?
Maltese.
Allison Kumar had one about a zoo, and she's like, "There's only one dog." I took my daughter to the zoo, and there was only one dog there, and we're like, "What?" And she's like, "It was a."
So it's still number one joke on the pod.
I tell her, like,
I had to restrain myself. I had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you call a T-Rex that sells guns? Small arms dealer.
I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, then
tiny.
if you already knew
I
that
like
one,
it.
I'm gonna. What do you call two octopuses that look the same? This is a good one for substantial equivalence. You call them identical.
I like it.
Thank you.
I like it.
All right, Nilo.
This one is very dumb, but my daughter loves it right now, so we're gonna go with it. She's 3, by the way, so humor level. So there's just like 2 muffins in the oven, and the first one turns to the second muffin and goes, "Man, it's really getting hot in here." And the second muffin turns and goes, "Holy shit, a talking muffin!" And there we go.
Do you know the
Does it have the bad word in it? Like when you
No,
tell
I,
it to your
I
daughter?
no, I sometimes honestly, I have to say it a lot. I'm not really good about keeping language great.
You know, at our house, we don't call it bad words. We say those are adult words. And so mommy is allowed to use adult words. You are not an adult yet, so you cannot. Especially when I'm listening.
Proper use of adult words is really what I hope to impart. So to add emphasis and humor, allowed.
Sometimes you can't beat a well-placed expletive.
Like a good F-bomb just right in the middle of
Sometimes
that
helps.
pre-sub meeting. Mm. Mm.
I actually had that happen a few weeks ago because I had the privilege of I had my back of my house, I had the roof cave in the middle of a pre-sub.
No.
Um so all I heard was a
Happens all the time though. Like,
and then a stream of water coming through my living room.
are you serious?
It was when all the snow melted. And that's how we learned that there was a large hole in the roof of my condo building and I'm on the top. Um, and I was like, I have to go. I'll be right back. I'm really sorry. Like,
Rain coming
I
down
wish
behind
I
you.
was kidding that there's water coming through the bookcase in my living room.
That's, you know,
So
I thought I heard it all. But for
FDA,
pre-subs.
they're
I
human. They're like, fine.
I've definitely wanted to swear on pre-subs before and held off till the debrief meetings on what the F was that, as like as recently as yesterday. Sometimes pre-subs go well, sometimes they don't. But I've never had the roof cave in,
Yeah.
so I guess I guess my
I did
violin is much smaller.
I did have a pre-sub meeting where the client didn't have, or like his ID had expired and so they wouldn't let him in the building, so he went and sat in the car while like the CTO and I went in and shared the slides while he phoned it, like literally phoned it in. I was like,
I feel like the
okay.
FDA review team should just come outside.
I've
Like,
heard
let's
that
also.
before. There was like one group that was like, it's sunny, but this was not a day that we would have gone outside.
No,
It was
okay.
pretty, yeah.
Bring the blanket, sit down the lawn, and have a discussion.
So it's like what we did at Berkeley. We would just be like, let's go outside today and talk about poetry on the lawn. All right, let's get into keeping up. There have been no new de novos or no new PMAs that I saw, but someone just put in the new HDE, and I think it was Nilo. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So in the very quick keeping up, I did see because there was no de novos or PMAs. I looked on the HDE one, and HDEs are because we haven't talked about them before. They're for orphan product designations, so they're humanitarian device exemptions, which um, tend to target smaller populations. So there was it's called the River Stent System, and it's indicated for stenting venous sinus in adult patients with idiopathic intracranial hypertension who have failed medical therapy and have significant stenosis of the venous sinus. And so this is kind of cool. It's a stent to relieve pressure. If you've got, and idiopathic intracranial hypertension can be, um, you can get ICH from a lot of things. And none of them tend to be good. You know, meningitis, brain injury, um, pseudo, um, whatchamacallit, pseudotumor type things. So there's a lot of things there, and relieving the pressure is often a critical step. So I actually was kind of curious because idiopathic intracranial hypertension itself isn't uncommon. So it has to be the significant stenosis of the venous sinus part that is what makes this an HDE rather than requiring a PMA. But it goes in the brain and it'll help people. And I always like the HDE program at FDA because it's where a lot of the pediatric devices fall, at least initially. It's a real big pain to maintain a PMA. I mean, maintain an HDE. So like a lot of companies will start there and then eventually move it over to a PMA. But I think it's a great program that the FDA does. That was
Do you
all.
want to explain to our to one listener what's what the HDE program actually, like what it means?
Um, yes, so I think so. um, so it's for products, typically class 3, like higher risk products that fall under the orphan product designation, and it's an exemption. I think the bar is safety and probable benefit rather than safety and efficacy. So typically you can th- get through the FDA, get the FDA to kind of agree that there's a benefit that outweighs the risk for the smaller population with a little bit less clinical data. But then once you get on the market with this HD, there's required heavy post-market surveillance and reporting to the FDA. So it kind of is almost an extension. It's in between market approval and an extension of your clinical trial. Yeah, I don't know if that answers what you're going for
It
there.
does. Yeah, no, I think
Okay.
it's just so people are like, what's an HDE? Because I feel like not many people, they know what a 510K is, they know what a PMA is, they know what a de novo is, and then they're like, HDE, come again. But it's, yeah, not having to show effectiveness, right? As you said, it's like safety and probable benefit. And it has to be under 8,000 people in the US a year. So, and it can't be like 8,000 new people are diagnosed a year. It's like it has to impact under that number. It's been hard to get into that program. Like, I mean, what's nice to see about the HDE that you mentioned is that there is a population. I think sometimes the hardest part of an HDE is like talking to the or getting the HDE staff to like help identify what that population is and putting the proper controls in place, that it's not just going to be, well, that population can use it, but so can everybody else, you know, or
Right.
it's going to be for a larger population. How are you going to control that so that we're not just essentially giving an exemption to a technology that can be used more broadly?
And one other, go, Hal. I was going to say one other thing to add there is once there is a PMA for the exact same indication, you can no longer have an HDE for that indication. So in theory, as more and more products move toward the PMA, because you transition out of HDE to PMA, there's less and less indications that are available for HDE. So it kind of does eventually get harder to find an indication that doesn't already have a marketed product for it. So, sorry, Hal, what were you gonna say?
No, and the question I've always had, and perhaps the two of you can answer, is when they define the distribution number, which is currently 8,000, and it does change every once in a while, how do, like, I'm interested in this sort of statistical analysis behind, and how, like, are they assessing it annually? What happens if you're in the program and the ADN changes? Do you know?
I know we've done a bunch of, so the step is first before even getting to the clinical trial or supply or getting to the HD submission, you have to have what's called an HUD, which is a humanitarian use designation, which is where you have to define the population size. And that can be like a process with multiple rounds of review to go through your statistical analysis and use cases. A lot of times it's based on claims data, because there's not a ton of publications for rare disease uses because it's often a very niche population by definition. So there's not like big literature or big money to do it that way. So it is a compilation of a lot of things. The maintenance thing, I think, comes with those annual reports that if you are kind of getting close to, you have to say exactly how many people you treated per year in those annual reports and kind of what their follow-up was, what their, there's a lot of conditions around the HD approval. I've never, honestly, every single HD I've ever worked on has been like 10 cases a year kind of things. Like they're never anywhere close to this number. So I've never had to worry about potentially going over.
Interesting. Thank you.
No, I have no answer.
Not to realize.
It's great.
Cool.
Thank you, Nilo.
Yeah, welcome.
He's our professional in the room. Oh, who was it? Is it? There's somebody that worked at the HDE program. We got to have him on. I'm gonna find. I think he's at Abbott now. Eric Chen.
Eric Chen.
Yeah.
Well, and Katie Chowdhury. I almost said Franzak. She hasn't been Franzak for 15 years. But Katie was in that group too. And both of them are Pitt grads, Eric Chen and Katie. Yeah, part of the Pitt to FDA pipeline, which there are lots of us. So.
It's good school. All right, so let's move on from the HDE. I didn't put it in the notes. I'm sorry, guys. But I think it might be in there. Was it? Oh, the FR notice.
Yeah.
And I did a little
shout out
like,
Shlomit.
Yeah. Like it was very interesting to do a little deeper dive into it. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I see a Federal Register notice, like I look at it and I'm like, what is this about? Like you have to scroll down a couple pages.
Forever.
And then also I'm like, I still don't get it. So I copied the whole thing and put it into ChatGPT, because I don't really know how to use ChatGPT very well either. But it did give me an output and it helped me kind of understand.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Are you ready? You ready for this?
Yeah.
The bottom line is FDA is essentially saying we're continuing the PMA program as is, but we're updating and consolidating the official accounting of all the data companies must submit, especially around pediatric use and clinical trial reporting. So the big takeaways were it reaffirms what the PMA is. So it's an approval pathway, a high-risk class 3 devices. It's extending an existing information collection, which is an OMB requirement. And it's asking that that they be allowed to renew or extend its authority to collect all the data which is required in the PMA requirements. And OMB tracks the burden, time, effort, cost for industry. Number 3, it updates what's counted towards that burden. So one of them being the main one that a lot of people are talking about are the pediatric use information. So that's section 515A. So applicants for PMAs now must include whether children are affected by the condition and the estimated pediatric population sizes. So I see this as like, what's so fascinating, guys, and I don't know, like it's maybe the wall you can't see behind me is like the one that has red strings all over it and like connecting things. But I feel like this is a big push for, like the current administration. MAHA is like, pediatric, like we need to do more about peds. I think there was a big article that came out in the New York Times, and it has a very splashy title called "This May Be the Most Important Medical Story of the Decade." And it was by Jeff Collar in the New York Times, and really interesting how it was, about the CRISPR technology, this kid who had very little chance of survival. And this whole team of scientists came together and like made a very specific treatment for this one child, and it worked. And so it's like, it kind of pushed some pressure on FDA to say, like, what are you doing about this? Like, there should be a way to regulate this safely. Is there going to be any guidance on this? And so, like, back to back, there was like the Federal Register saying, like, we need to collect more information about pediatrics, which I'm sure was in the pipeline for a while. Like, I feel like there's been a lot of effort, especially with like Vasoom Paris and like all the work that he did at FDA for pediatric devices. And then this article, and then like 4 days later, FDA issued the draft guidance on genome editing safety standards to advance gene therapy development. So it was like, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden it was like, here's this article. And the FDA was like, oh yes, we do have a guidance for that. It's, while we mostly focus on devices, I think the new genome editing standards is really important for like, how do we accept and review and regulate new technologies, new innovations, and make sure it's safe, but also like make sure that Americans are getting these technologies if they are working. So I don't know. I'd love your guys' hot take on it.
This is pretty interesting because, I mean, again, 3 of us almost always just do device work, but I sort of keep up with the CBER regulated products just because of the nature of the group, and their policy goals for 26 exceed the ambition level that are on the device side. It's like a 17-point outline, which I think is, and most of it is in the gene space, which is a very interesting shift if you look historically, 22, 23, 24. And this all plays in that it's trickling down to that space. So you're correct in this is what they're doing. They're doing it externally and they're coming back internally. I don't know enough about cell gene therapy to talk about it. I'm not gonna opine, but it is a really interesting shift.
So I agree. And the one thing, we keep saying we focus on the device side, but the gene therapies have to get to their location somehow. And a lot of these CRISPR technologies and things are for brain disease. And so just to kind of open this up is historically to get therapeutics to the brain, including gene type therapies, you would have to flood the system and flood the cerebral spinal column with the hopes that it would reach the target. And now there's ways to direct deliver these therapies, but they are complicated medical devices that have to make sure that these tiny dosages of pretty toxic material, if they like go outside of where they are because they're in weird buffers and things like that, get right to where they need to be, but it makes it so like the devices have a lot of leachable concerns, or do the genes actually bind to these Teflon coated guide catheter type stuff, or the metal syringes and things. So there's a lot of like complex device questions with those types of things. And I'm actually, it has been an issue because we've got things where these really complicated CRISPR technology gene therapies, AAV type work, have spent all, 5 years developing the thing or more to kind of get there, and they've never considered the device, and then they can't get into a clinical trial at all because CDRH gets consulted and they're like, well, they didn't even do cytotox testing. And sometimes I'm like, who cares if they did cytotox testing? What they're delivering is cytotoxic. But at the same time, there's some basic requirements there too.
You've set up a very interesting conversation. I just currently am working with a group that has developed a CGT based. It's a drug that's dosed into stem cell derived, trying to be cautious, sphere that is then inside of a second drug delivery device that is an implantable. They have done all of the drug, they've done the drug development, all of this. The question in preclinical, and by that I mean bench testing, is do you establish basically a bench comparator method with just the drug and the stem cell delivery system versus the interaction of the polymer cage it sits in, that it's actually the implanted, like what holds it in the tissue? And it's been a very interesting conversation with FDA about how do we assess chemistry, compatibility, what's actually the drug delivery system. And there's a lot of I don't know, and we have to go figure out. But with it's this incredibly complex system to solve a fairly complex problem. But this is fascinating because they had no concept of how the device side works, and now we're having to backpedal and sort of reestablish a baseline. Say, okay, did you even characterize the cage? Did you even characterize the stem cell derived product, the actual drug delivery, like what it's dosed with? And did you do that without the API? And then did you add the API? Are you building a credibility path or a path of evidence that typically you wouldn't have to with this sort of product?
Yeah, combination products I just think they're awesome. There's just so much fun science around them, so that they hit my nerd itch when we get to have them. But to actually talk about that, we should do that not on this call because I do want to talk more about that one because I've got
no one's
thoughts.
Listening, it's fine. This is a confidential space.
Thanks, Alan and Caitlin, for hanging around.
There's two people
going to
here.
talk to myself at home, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Hal, I couldn't stand that there was nothing under your name, so I put something there. You're Hal 9001.
Oh my god.
All right. Let's talk. We did talk a little bit about the READI Home Innovation Challenge last week, but any other updates you guys wanted to touch on there?
I just have a question, and you may have talked about this last week. There's only 9 spots in the program, right? Like
they always do 9.
I don't know. I didn't know if it was like a statistical significance. I don't.
No, someone mentioned it before, and I am gonna butcher it, but there is something with 10 requires a bigger act of Congress. Like when you get into double digits, there is something to like the actual legislations that 9 is allowable for a pilot, and 10 requires more. Daniel wrote something with the Paperwork Reduction Act. I agree. I can't remember the specifics, but thank you.
Putting you on blast.
Yeah, no, she's right. And it is I think it was actually maybe in our Slack channel that Josh Silverstein, because he always knows the legal stuff. And I think
don't name drop him. He's always
Was he
says
not
he
allowed
can't
to?
talk about it. Yeah,
Oh, that's sorry.
whatever.
I heard
It
from him
wasn't Josh.
it was definitely not Josh, and it definitely wasn't in any kind of public communication thing. It was somewhere else.
We get to say Danielle said it. She's
Yeah,
something.
Danielle said it. Thanks,
Yeah,
Danielle.
thanks, Danielle.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, but
anyway,
there is a
we're getting
rule.
off
There's a
topic.
reason for that.
There's a reason for that. The READI Home Innovation Challenge then, but it gives you all the benefits of the breakthrough step, and I don't know. Maybe this dovetails nicely with what I watched this morning, because I don't know if you guys watched the RFK congressional, and we're so trying not to be political on the show, but of course, like, FDA is a political agency, and it is a government agency, and there's politics involved. But I think one of the big, like, I find it so fascinating when, like, whoever's asking the questions, like, has a very different way of being like, I just want to thank you so much. Like, everything you're doing is amazing. And then the next person's like, what are you doing? So, like, I wish they could just, I don't know. Maybe we need, like, a AI to, like, distill some of the stuff that goes on between, like, Congress and the people that they're talking to. But one of the things that was, I took a screenshot because I was just like, oh, that guy clearly has interest. But it was Mr. Schweikert, who was, Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy testifies on Trump administration's health policies. And then they also had Representative Darren LaHood. But I think it was Schweikert that said something like, thanks so much for what you did for all of our little wrist things. And I was like, I know what he's trying to say, but it was like to allow some of the stuff to go into the home. He's like, we need stuff that goes into the home. We need more like telehealth. Like, there's so many people in my constituents that can't, get into the hospital, or your administration's made it harder for them to get seen and care because all of these rural hospitals have shut down. They can't afford to continue working, being in practice. So thank you for like trying to make it more tech like this to be more available and getting people to have more access to their vital signs and whatnot. So I was like, ooh, where's my popcorn? It's too early for popcorn. It's like 9 a.m.
It's never too early for popcorn.
That's a good point. That's true.
Yeah. But I do think that that's a good backhanded, you've forced the shutdown of all these rural hospitals and health systems, but thanks for making it easier for tech companies to get into my house. Yeah, cool. That's a cynical way of doing it, but the tech is cool. I do, I'm sitting here with a Garmin watch on that, will tell me if I'm dying. Watch free.
Wow.
Because I think I probably have undiagnosed ADHD. Who doesn't, right? But like, I think it would be so.
We're all
distracting
gifted
for
kids.
me. I'm so gifted. I'm twice gifted. I would really struggle, I think, if I had it. It's already hard enough with my phone. So I've been like really trying to like put on the blockers or whatever and like put it away from me during the day. Otherwise, it's like squirrel.
I think I told you this. I actually find the smartwatches to make me look at my phone less, because if I get the notification that I got like a message or something like that, I can see right away on my wrist that it's like not important, and I don't open my phone up to the 10,000 other things that are specifically designed to keep me on my phone. So I feel like my watch is actually a good, like, I can bury my phone across the room for a while and not feel the need to go like check it because I know what just came in. It's not super important.
It's just so annoying though when people are like, you're like talking to them and they're like watch buzzes and they look at it and you're like, here, like focus on me. But yeah, I know what you're saying though now.
I also use it to find my phone because I lose my phone all the time, and you can ping your iPhone with it.
Mine's connected.
Technology to find my technology.
Yeah, mine's connected to my keys as well, because I always lose my keys, and it's connected to my Tile app, and I can ping my keys. Yeah. So, anywho, I do think the Maha conversation though. I think how you put it in our kind of agenda, and I think it is interesting because we work as consultants and folks, we work so closely with like getting through the FDA process, which it's a pretty big survey that people just don't trust on the public. So Hal, you want to kind of mention it?
Yeah, so there was a survey done, population of about 4,000, 3,851, where 53% of people that took the survey basically said that they have decreased trust in the agency or do not have any trust, and that they strongly agree with that statement, which is up considerably from a few years past. So it's just interesting that perhaps maybe we, the three of us, the industry may live in sort of a confine of, we like the agency, we realize there are changes that have happened, but we trust the agency and we trust the people that we talk to and work with. But it's not the trend that has permeated outside of industry. And it's, how can we as people and through our work sort of convey that this is that they do a good job, and that for the most part they are doing what they're told and what their purpose is. And I feel like if I'm out talking somewhere, I do try and change that narrative of, can we trust the agency? Is the agency doing good work? Yes. I mean, I have positive interactions every single day. I think it's I get frustrated with everyone sometimes, but it's just an interesting outcome.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think that's probably swung a lot by different groups at FDA and things like we talked about last week, the new kind of venture capital White Oak 66, which is comprised of a lot of ex FDA device people and like senior leadership type people, and it comes with that their heart's in the right place and it's a leg up, but it also comes with the potential view of impropriety, and it's not it's easy to jump to that conclusion too, even when it's amongst people like us that really trust the agency. But ultimately, if if they were really skewed toward industry, my job would be so much easier.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So, I sometimes I wish it was more true, but no, it is a good kind of point though of like when we leave the nerddom circle and have to talk to other people of like the importance of the FDA or be on a board meeting call with our clients and things like that, where they just kind of enter the conversation with a serious distrust of the whole process, like coaching that's not really there, or we don't believe it's really there, is a huge hurdle.
Yes, every time I have that conversation, it is their job and their purpose. They are public servants, just like both of you were. They're typically not in it for the money. And their job is to protect the safety of humans across the country. They do a very good job to the best of their ability. And there are some external contributing things that they can't control. And, like the three of us that interact with people every day there, we just see a different side. And I also think the public, meaning people not in our space, see other review branches or maybe see a different perspective from CBER/CDER that is maybe not conveyed to the device branch, and are like, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? What's the implication for you? What's actually happening at FDA? And you're like, well, different dog and pony show, but here's what's happening in my space, and here's the good work that we're doing, and here's the great pilot programs, and here's the positive interactions we've had, and here's the flexibility, and here's how they want to work with sponsors. So this doesn't shock me, but I like to preach another gospel. So
No, I mean, I think it's important to, I fully agree there.
I guess I wish if I could, a girl can dream about things. I agree that it's their responsibility to protect and for the safety of patients. And I wish that we didn't drop off the promotion side of it too. I think there's so many folks that are like, it's not our job at FDA to promote technologies. That's for you guys in industry to do. And why I was happy that CDRH knew and some of these things came back online And if you look at that FDA Instagram page, I was like, huh, maybe a little, not like that kind of promotion, but like, I wish FDA reviewers and staff were able to be brought into the conversation more of like the good that comes out of these technologies. It's like kind of the unsung hero of, yeah, you helped this technology come through, and like you have a big part in patient benefits and quality of life. And like I always feel like the Pollyanna in some of these like dark conversations at conferences where I'm like, but think about all the good, and I'm like, but it's true too. Like there's stuff that I'm like, oh, like without this, like this person would have gotten what the care that they needed. So yeah, I want to shine a little light on that and just be like, yeah, you're doing good. Like keep improving things and keep, yes, with safety comes first, right? Like I feel like it's always safety and effectiveness, not the other way around. But I wish that we didn't lose sight of that sometimes.
I do think, especially, certain groups at FDA too, but like really do help companies through the whole process, not just at here's what you have to do and we're putting up this huge wall of barrier or anything like that. They the example I always think about here is like Chung Fu in the structural heart group. He's amazing. He's one of the, like, anyone who's ever had interactions with him, he's so helpful to not just, he's not lowering the bar or anything, but he is like providing solutions, not just a wall. And I feel like that group's really good. There's lots of groups like that at FDA. And so I agree with you, Allison. It would be great to kind of, for them to promote like, hey, this company came in for like 6 pre-subs, right? And we worked tirelessly to like help them through this process, and they ran their clinical trial. It was a success, and we worked with them to get it through the PMA and like get it there. And like I agree. They should,
maybe case studies. Maybe they need to come out with like, here's like how this works. They had 73 real world evidence. Like, I'm like, that's a cool thing to point out. Why couldn't it be like, okay, this de novo is granted, and here was the regulatory, like the different things that they did in order for us to say yes. I'm saying us, meaning like FDA. Like this would be, I don't know, just be kind of a nice way to show how the system is working and not have it be such a black box,
I do also. Oh, go ahead, Hal.
No, I was going to say to that point, I mean, I know a lot of people outside of this don't understand that it's a huge negotiation process. Throughout, like, it is not here is indication, here is, plan, yes or no. It is, what do we compromise on? Is it, do we get what we want now and then do a subsequent, do we expand the indication? How do we, restructure the trial? Like, it's having insight into those conversations and like, case study. This is where we started. This is actually how the negotiation went based on a, X body of evidence or how we restructured an indication or, what was comfortable is very important to this because for most more complex class 2 and class 3 devices, you never start with the same indication that you came to the table with the first time. Or if the two of you do, please tell me how. Like,
how did you do that?
If you have that magic wand, please, can I use that every once in a while? But
yeah,
that's helpful for people to know too.
Yeah, I think the other thing would be great, and this is me hoping of one thing I would change is that the FDA had more options for clearances and approvals, and could take into account companies like the wall or the bar they're throwing up. Is it shutting down the company, and is that really in the best interest of the public health? And so, like, I recently had a call with someone at FDA in the combination products office, and it was kind of one of those things. Hey, there are examples on both sides of this that this could be a drug or a device. You do realize that if you call this a drug, it will shut the company down. Is that in the best interest of the public health? And the person I was talking to was like, I hear you. I don't think so, but we're not allowed to take that into consideration. And things like that where it's like, it's obviously not according to the mission, but they are bound by like the legality and like part of it. OCP is a tough one because it is such a whoever feels like choosing that day kind of thing. But there are other things where like it'd be cool if there was options to say, you know what, you're right. That's not to shut you guys down is not great. Where can we help you, give you something so you can go get more funding to do everything else we want you to do? Is it a limited release? You're allowed to, do you get an HDE equivalent kind of thing? I'd love to see some policy shift on that end
Yeah.
of conditional approvals used to be a thing. They aren't anymore. Because a conditional approval would be like you can sell once you're done with this, and then the company would be able to go raise money on that to go do this, and FDA doesn't do those anymore. So
Or
those
even
are the
like a
things that,
staged IDE, like there's certain
yeah,
ways to say like, okay, we're going to give you X number, and then we're going to expand the study to the full pivotal study. On a flip side of that, I do see the shift for more post-market controls with like de
that's true.
novos. We've seen way more that have been getting granting with that as one of the potential special controls. I think once FDA starts getting more familiar with technologies, or there's more data to support the effectiveness of those products, or a different, or like a product line, like especially if there's more 510Ks that come out that use that as a predicate, they can then say, okay, we're done. We don't need any more post-market controls for these companies. I don't know. I see that as like, yeah, leverage the tools that you have already available to you, FDA, because there are creative ways to do it. It's like coming to the table with like, here are all the various things that we think could be a path forward. But that's really frustrating, Nilo. I'm sorry you had to have that. That's a hard conversation to be like, we know, but we can't do anything. It's like,
Fortunately, it's still going on.
okay.
We haven't gotten the official decision, so we'll see. But we kind of know where it might be going. So
Like my sort of this is interesting. Let's delve into this further. Is statutorily FDA at least like can't engage in sort of the commercial side of a product, right? They have no statutory breadth and depth to control price or to dictate cost or anything like that, anything on the consumer side. But we've seen CBER, or CBER, CDER sort of dangle their feet into not. I'm an economist, so I'm going to use a term. That's like basically like a price control. That's not actually a price control, right? But it's like when we're incentivizing innovation, why can't that be translated to CDRH, especially for startups that have 7, 8 year, 9 year PD timelines? Is there not an incentive or some sort of framework to say, okay, we realize there's a big bottleneck on preclinical testing to actually fund the next phase? How can we help you? How can we create some framework? And it they're doing it, so why can't it be translated? It's a very interesting. It's a very interesting.
Because CDRH gets everything last. Hal,
yeah,
like it's like the little.
let's just take this clip and send it to Michelle and see what she says. Michelle, listen to us. Yeah, Dr. Tarver. I've never met her. I don't know why I called her Michelle. She's Dr. Tarver.
Yeah, she's not your friend. Yeah. I have, and she's delightful. She's as
Oh, that's
delightful
awesome.
as
Oh,
everyone
look at
says.
you.
I know. We're kind of besties. No, I'm just kidding. I want to be your bestie. Anyway, let's talk about because we have a couple more bullets to get through. Who wants to talk about the official change to the eMDR reporting system? I saw all of that updated in the CDRH new as well.
I can do it real quick because I was the one that I clicked through it. I don't live my life submitting a ton of mod or MDR reports, but I have done it before, and we talked about before, they launched like this much more user-friendly platform that's supposed to be easier to search around for signals and things like that, as well as submit your medical device reporting things. Brief clicking through it, it seems much better. The old one was very just out of the late 80s, early 90s computer kind of user interface, and this one is definitely an updated module that is nicer to look at, easier to search, has better filters and things like that. So for those who live on the risk management side that use that for signals, or actually startups that report things like that, I think it'll be a welcome change. It was a good effort. I have no idea who like at FDA like ran that initiative either, but shout out to them.
You're gonna say something, Hal? Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is one of those big things that they're trying to do all of the groups, right? To have better adverse event reporting, and anyway, it's good for everybody when we know what things are, where devices are and things are hitting the fan. Speaking of things hitting the fan, can I go over to a warning letter? I didn't put this in the chat, but I thought it was really fascinating because a lot of people were talking about it online. It's a cosmetics company, cosmetics lab, but they got a warning letter for the inappropriate use of artificial intelligence in their manufacturing processes. Did you guys see this?
I did not.
And people are touting this as like the first. Yeah, but it's I'm not going to name the company or anything, but it talked about how this company, during FDA inspection of your manufacturing facility, you stated FDA investigators that utilized artificial intelligence agents to help your firm comply with FDA regulations. Specifically, you used AI to create drug product specifications, procedures, and master production or control records to be in compliance with FDA requirements. But it's like, we actually don't know. You don't have any process in place to ensure that those things are actually accurate and actually compliant with CGMP. So it was like, good job. You used AI like bots to like try and help you be compliant, but you didn't. There's no process in place for you to like check your work.
So is this just this total like they just wrote into ChatGPT like this is the kind of product I have? Give us a compliant QMS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy, right? Here, I'm gonna
probably need the human in the loop part of that.
Yeah, I mean it's the first time that FDA actually looked at that, right? So
yeah, there are like a lot of every conference you go to has at least 25 booths of people selling their AI software to build your QMS or risk management, but those seem to have some certifications to them and probably still require a human in the loop step to like check things off and sign off and design reviews and all that kind of stuff.
My question here, because I'm not a quality person, but when you get into like
you're a quality person, Hal. We love.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But as you get into like agentic AI creating quality systems, does the LLM have to have like a quality? Like does it become this like cyclical? If the software creating the quality system, does it also have to be subject to a quality system because it's creating one? I don't.
Yes.
Like to me, the answer should be yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs. It needs to be qualified.
Yeah.
Because it is a tool, right? And there is like, that's the signatures, right? But there's there is. I mean, that's part of it. But there is like, I would consider it the same way as like there are rules around software and manufacturing and your supply chain tracking, and it's a development tool at that point. And so I think you would have to be qualified in the same way that any of your internal software things should be qualified. Yeah. So I wouldn't call it a QMS on top of a QMS, but the IQ, OQ, PQ relevant things should probably be in there to show that it's. There's a person on my team, Natalie, who's definitely not listening today. She's great at like test method validation and process validations, and she would probably knows the exact answer to this, but I think it falls into that realm.
Are you? I wanted to talk quickly about, so that's our AI friend. And then there was another, the trial disclosure. I didn't see anyone put in the notes, but FDA came out on the 13th about reminding more than 2,200 sponsors and researchers to disclose their trial results. And that being a big thing of like FDA. I mean, of course, their marketing is like, we advance transparency in clinical trial results, so they're saying this is part of their radical transparency, but also, yeah, it's,
follow the rules.
For
like,
what's that? Yeah, follow the rules. Like, do the right thing. Put your stuff in clinicaltrials.gov. And they found that 29.6% of the required trial results were missing. And it's like, it's huge. And I kind of also feel like probably a lot of those things just don't get updated. Like, it kind of just you stop enrolling, or like there's some reason that the study stops and you just like don't do anything about it. And so even when I'm going on there, I've had friends that are like, do you know any clinical trials? Like my friend was diagnosed with XYZ. Like, do you know anything? And so I'll go in there and be like, these seem like the good, there's cool trials going on in your neighborhood. And then they find out like, no, those aren't still enrolling, or that's not really a thing anymore. So I'm like, yeah, it is good to remind people, like, do the right thing and, follow the rules.
Is there any impact to that based on the riffs? Like, I'm very curious if there's like, if this is a dual-sided, like if it's
I don't
sponsors not, but also maybe internal not.
I I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think clinicaltrials.gov, it's kind of I don't think they ever had any teeth really to like go after people for not doing it. It was kind of a please do this, hey, tisk tisk, you're not following the rules kind of thing. So maybe a little bit that the enforcement has gone down, but I think it's really on the, if I'm being honest, it's probably always been around 30% of poor reporting. I don't think it's increased or decreased because I've been using that since college, right? Like to do research on things, and it's always been like, oh, why aren't the results here? Why isn't the protocol like you can see things but they're not there, and it's yeah. So I think it's good that they're going after it, to be honest. But I don't think this is one of the cases where they have created the problem and acting like a hero that they're solving it.
The one I shared on our other forum of like the honey. They're like, look at we tested 102 types of honey from all around the world, and they found out like only 4 were violative, and like 2 of them were from the US and 2 of them were from Armenia. And I was just like, so you're like, yay! Like I definitely don't want to eat honey that's been sweetened artificially. But also, like, how much money did that cost? I'm like, yay, I'm all for research. But, like, is that a good thing to splash? Anyway, I'm getting off topic. What else? Was there anything else you guys wanted to chat about?
Yeah, I think
in our 7 minutes left.
There's the expanded enforcement discretion capacity. I didn't put this one in here, so I actually don't know what it is.
That's how. I don't know.
Yeah, so FDA appealed to Congress last week in their fiscal year 26 policy plan to formalize their capability to disclose all the information that they're already disclosing in CRLs. So on the drug side, which is very interesting because having been in the DC space for almost 10 years, there's very few public instances of FDA publicly expressing and publicly asking Congress to expand their power like that. And it was interesting how he packaged it because it was broad enforcement, but also if you go under, it was new clinical pathways. So basically doing like a diluted IDE, a quicker IDE, supporting a more diluted IND. And it's interesting to see how A, that'll square with CRLs, B, how it'll square with clinicaltrial.gov, and what that actually looks like, because it's the application on the, I haven't read it all, but it's very interesting because it was everything. It was enforcement, it was pre-market, it was clinical, it was the actual submission. And yeah, so they have about 300 days to, if it gets, sorry, I'm going to walk through this. If Congress allows, and we'll proceed, there's like a 300-day rollout period, basically. So we won't see this until next year. But I'm very interested. Dropping the IND timeline in half, so 30 days instead of 60 days. And then, does that go over to the device branch in 10 years?
We're always on we're on the delayed cycle of everything. But I find it fascinating. I agree with you. Like, one of his statements in that article I think you're referencing is, they were saying how FDA takes over 300 days to get a drug approved, where in China it takes like 200 days or a little over 200 days. And so we want to stay competitive and like understand like what is the benefit, risk, and safety and efficacy when we're talking about drugs. But I guess the pendulum, I'm just worried, you know, just making sure it's not swinging so far. You know, I think the recent, and RFK mentioned it this morning at Congress, of like it took us 40 or 50 days to approve this like most recent drug, and it's like they're like before that the fastest was 330 days or something, and I was like, is that a good thing? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know,
speed.
sometimes
Yeah,
I'm like,
speed is not always good.
speed's not always. I think in some cases, especially depending on the disease, like I just wish they would give us a little more information, like when they tout stuff like that, like tell us what population it was for, or you know, like that article that I was referencing earlier from New York Times, like some of that. You know, this is a kid that has this disease out of like 1.5 million kids get this disease, and it's very low survival, right? They're not going to make it to their second birthday. So it's, I think you have to put that into the conversation as well, instead of just being like, we made it faster.
Allison, it's 2026. Nuances has been dead for a while.
Open your eyes, Komiyama.
Come on.
You're so.
I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says that. I hope you know. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all gonna get one. Nuance.
Yeah. That's actually
Dead
the first
Allison.
that's actually the first TTKU merch. Is just a T-shirt that says Nuance is dead.
We do need merch. That's a good idea.
I was given a T-shirt that I can't wear because it's not actually like in context. It's funny, but it's this bright green one that says "If in doubt, change the data."
You should definitely wear that on all your work calls.
Yeah.
And it came out of a very tired 2 a.m. comment doing a submission, but it's hysterical, but it's not something that I can wear in any real capacity because people will think I'm just like making it up as I go along.
Well, that's what we're, aren't we all?
Yeah. Yes.
There was one, I don't know if we want to quick do the last thing, but I thought it was kind of cool, was this HEAL initiative, Hal, that you put on there. Just a quick plug for it. Yeah.
So NIH is going to actually fund investigations into the device space, or they're going to place it as a higher priority, which I love. I do not think that the federal government supports enough non-drug trials. We need, like, especially I feel like there's a large shift happening that is, let's see what a device intervention can do instead of a drug intervention. And I just love that there's a grant posted for this, and it's all device specific, and it's broad in its potential applications, if it's, you know, drug delivery or you know, whatever it may be. So I'm super excited to see how this HEAL program grows, and who uses it and how it's used, because we need more things like that on the device side.
Truth. All right,
That's
with that, do you wanna do your last joke? Because I know you said you had two. I'm not gonna look at the answer, Nilo. Don't read it. So.
No.
No, you don't.
Perfect time to end it.
In light of recent political events, it may be a little insensitive.
We're gonna say just one jokes for today. So
Yeah.
I got two in. So
yeah, I think HEAL Initiative is a good way to end it. That was a positive note.
true. Let's end on a positive. HEAL Initiative for the win. Where can people find you?
At my email, which, do you guys have it somewhere, or should I?
You can just say it out loud. We'll put it in the chat.
It's long.
Hal at Eurofins.
It's hal.stowe at bpt.
Put it up in post.
Eurofins.us.com. The BPT is important, because if you don't, it'll go somewhere else.
Does it go to the other Hal Stowe? Like
it goes into like a general inbox that gets like redirected. But no, find me.
And they can find you on LinkedIn, right?
Find me on LinkedIn. Find me in Ireland next week at Strategist. MedTech Strategist.
I'm so jealous. I wanted to go to that one so badly.
I'm doing a panel on strategy for startups on the late stage. So how to make yourself stand out for post-authorization investment or, during review investment. I'll give you a little insight. Mine's going to be start strong, start early, make yourself flexible from your strategy at the beginning, and build indications and pathways to market and what supports that pathway that gives you flexibility after authorization or after the first round authorization. So I'm excited. It's me and 3 VCs. So it's a very interesting crowd.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you can find me at bluestocking.health. I just dropped another podcast today where I'm interviewing Dr. Adam Brown from ABIG. So big shout out to him.
Nice.
And it's such, I loved the conversation. So, and then Nilo, where can people find you?
NiloMedicalConsulting.com or LinkedIn or the TTKU podcasting arena on Spotify, YouTube, wherever your podcasts are listened to. Yeah, we're there, I think.
Don't
Like us.
feel the need to smash the like button though.
Like, subscribe, 5 stars, or else you hate us.
Oh gosh, you did it! No, we have to delete this one. Hal, I'm so sorry. We're gonna have to get rid of this one.
Yeah.
All right, we're over time. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Hal. I'll see you guys next
Thanks, Al. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. All right.